Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
And what is going on, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are tuned in for another edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast, but I'm also Nerd Initiative editor-in-chief. To my left, your right, because he has to do his own intro. It's in his contract.
Coming at you live and direct, straight from the ODPH studio. My name is Off the Cuff Tom, and this is really a lot of them coming at you live and direct, straight from the ODPH studios. My name's Off the Cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur, and as much as I want to say it, I think Matt's got this one well covered. He's Batman.
I think he does too, because joining us via the Batcave is one half of the dynamic duo of Drafts and Dialogue, bringing you that pop culture dialogue that you need to know each and every single week. It is Batman, aka Matt from Hops Geeks News. Matt, what is going on?
What's up, brothers? It's a pleasure to be here, taking a break fighting crime. I actually can't see anything because I don't have my glasses on. Good Lord.
Don't worry, you look great.
You do indeed, my friend, because tonight is a celebration of 85 years of the Bat, because this Saturday, all around the world, is officially Batman Day. So wherever you are watching this program from, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. This Saturday is celebrating everything that is the Cape Crusader, whether it's movies, whether it's comics, whether it's TV, whatever it is, to celebrate the legacy and just be a fan of one of the greatest superheroes of all time. So what we thought we'd do for this edition of Turn a Page is do something a little different. Instead of breaking down one story, we're going to go round table and chat, super chat. I want you to jump in. I saw Kat's in there too, our newest member of Nerd Initiative.
Let's go.
I want to see that chat post in what is your favorite Batman story, because tonight we're going to round table some of our favorite Batman stories. And by the end of this show, we're going to have a definitive winner of what is the greatest Batman story of all time. So, gentlemen, are we ready to get into this?
Save Martha.
Bats frighten me, Alfred. It's time to me share my dread.
Fair enough.
Ken is going to hate this by the end of the show.
No, I'm going to be used to it, because I'm celebrating too, because there's so much things to enjoy about Batman right now. Especially, I hope everybody took advantage of the FOC, because coming out is going to be a new addition to the Batman legacy. And I guarantee you next year for Batman Day, we're going to be talking about this. And that is coming out October 9th from DC Comics. Absolute Batman #1. Scott Snyder is returning to the legendary character that you're going to hear a lot of his stories that he did throughout this episode. But going into this, I mean, guys, your thoughts about this book coming out?
Look at the cover. Just look at it. Like, that gives off so many like Frank Miller 90s oversized, extra pouches. Like, the Bat is jacked.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the logo, a lot of people are like, oh, the logo, that logo is sick, personally. And then also the fact that like Scott Snyder is coming back to do a Batman story. Batman is beefed up in this. Guys, what more? I've seen what entertains you people, all right? And I know you're going to be all in on this.
Oh, yeah, there's no way you can't be. And like I say, I guarantee you this is going to be one that when this comes out, I have a feeling this could be in that competition to make this list. But we're going to be breaking down everything Batman. And like I say, I want to hear everybody's picks into it, because where we're going to be starting at number 10 is a story that definitely made some noise when it came out in 2002, and for a lot of great reasons as well. And this is Batman Hush by Jeff Loeb, and one of the greatest artists of all time, making his Batman debut, running with this and just making a definitive statement with the visuals, and that is the one and only Jim Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with you, Tom. What is your thoughts about the series in general? Like, let's break it down.
Okay, so Batman Hush is a really interesting story. I love the fact that the dichotomy of what they're doing with Batman and Hush. It really plays off really well. Like, it's the anti-Batman Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So it really also plays on that, what the one bad day kind of idea. I really enjoyed this. Now, if a lot of people didn't know, Batman Hush also was adapted to an animated form as well in the previous DC EU universe. That had a plot twist in it that was extremely divisive. They actually made the Riddler Hush, and it did not fare very well. It sold, don't get me wrong, because it's a great story. But then to have that plot twist at the end, yeah. But all in all, still a great story. Like, absolutely, it's one of the top 10. That's why it's on the list that you need to go out and pick up.
Mhm.
Like, can we just publish our own Nerd Initiative Batman omnibus?
I mean, if they pay enough, I mean, we could definitely talk about that. Matt, what's your take on Hush, though?
Honestly, man, I really liked it. I thought it was clever in ways that I think this actually is a story that kind of brings you closer to the character of Bruce Wayne in some different ways. First of all, Thomas Elliot was his childhood friend. It's like a story that's close to him. The character of Hush is close to Bruce, and then also, man, you see him go to the depths, and you kind of explore the friendship between him and Gordon in a way when he's about to kill Joker in that alleyway. He's at his point, and Jim kind of brings him back from that edge. And so I think it really explores some of those really, really interesting storylines because everyone's always like, well, why doesn't he just kill so and so? And they kind of like dig into that a little bit here. And I thought it was kind of also just a clever, refreshing. I thought the artwork overall was really cool. I liked a lot of the rainy elements of the story and how you kind of got a lot. It's kind of like Long Halloween in that you get a lot of the other Batman rogues playing into this too, which is always a good time. And I know some people are out on it, but I really, really enjoy. I actually own this one. It's one I read probably annually.
Yeah, this is one that really jumped out to me, and because I'm such an old school Jim Lee fan. Like I say, I've read a lot of his Marvel stuff, and seeing him come over to DC and tackle Batman, and we knew we were going to get iconic images, and boy, did we ever! Like everything that is in his run is just mind blowing, and the fact that you touched upon, he kind of dabbled with every single rogue he could while establishing a new one. And we always have to remember as fans too, it's always difficult when creative teams take over and they try bringing in or creating a new rogue, because this is arguably the greatest rogues gallery in all of comics. I think that maybe Spider-Man and the Flash give it a run for the money, no pun
Agreed.
intended.
Yeah.
But I think Batman's just ahead of it. And to really have a character that stands out and is used quite frequently after this run is just a testament to the work that's been put in. And I thought the story overall was very good. A couple places I thought could have been a little tighter, but that's just me being, an over-examining fan. But I love this series. I bought a couple different versions of it, and it's one that still holds up to this day, I think, for any Bat fan coming in.
Yeah.
Next, go.
I was just gonna say, I like what you said. It stands up for any Batman fan coming in. I think it's a cool entry point if somebody just wanted to pick up a Batman comic and kind of maybe they haven't for whatever reason. I think this one would not be such a bad idea to pick up as like one of your first entries into the Batman lore.
No, absolutely. I think this is a great jumping on point because, like I say, they start very fresh, and that's one great thing too. When you see a new creative team take over and they just jump in, that's always a perfect time to do it. And that kind of is a great segue point to the next story we're going to.
Wait, let me segue back. So you know how I mentioned how that it was animated as well? A lot of the actors from the original Batman animated series came back to reprise their roles in 2019 as well for the movie. So that was always a nice little, okay, we're here, we're in together. Okay, and segue.
Yeah, because we're talking about great jump on points. And arguably when we talk about the New 52 in DC, there's a lot of mixed reaction to this.
Mixed reaction.
Oh, yeah, and rightfully so. And that's something as fans, when you grow up with these characters and they're so iconic, when you're seeing resets done, you're wondering how they're going to work and how they're going to pull off. And I thought when we heard about a certain team taking over Batman, it was going to be a no-brainer slam dunk home run win. And boy, I think we were greeted with that because the next one on our list is one of my all-time favorite stories. We've covered it here on Turn a Page. And that is Batman Court of Owls.
This is perfect.
By Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo.
This is fantastic.
Yeah. Tom, I'll just let you jump in and go from here.
Look, considering the fact the New 52 was very hit or miss, and let's be quite honest, this is perfect. This was a standout. I would say that this was the book of New 52. Everything else aside, I was not a fan of the other characters and how they had redone them. But the fact that what they did with Court of Owls has stuck around in Bat lore, that tells you something, that even with everything that happened, another reboot, another crisis, another blah, 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 yada, 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 Court of Owls made its mark so freaking hard, it slammed the bat signal. Like, it just smashed it.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the New 52 being divisive, which sure it was, and not everything's going to be for everybody. Not everything is probably always going to be a hit. But the one thing that is unanimously talked about is the fact that the Court of Owls is that hit. It is Batman. It is Greg Capullo. It is Scott Snyder. It is this story of digging into Gotham's soul, because Gotham is old money. It's really old money. It's old, and it even digs deeper than that. It's corruption. It's the corruption that just festers within Gotham in this court, and how rooted deeply into Gotham it is, which is always one of my favorite things, where we really make Gotham its own entity, because it really is. Gotham is its own being. It's not just a city. It's more than a city. And that's one of the unique things about Batman. And so when we dive into that, and there's those scenes where somebody's standing toe to toe, Batman is back against the wall. He's about to be he's dead. And then, just that resilience that he has to come back from that. And he's like, basically, you're locked in here with me, and whoops some serious ass inside, that tomb that the Court of Owls are taunting him within. Dude, it is some of the finest work. It is the reason why Scott Snyder is my favorite comic book writer of all time. I mean, it's like picking your favorite kid sometimes. I'm sorry to everybody else out there. But he really is. And it's this. This is what got me just back in fully. I was halfway in the door, halfway out the door with comics at the time. This story, it yanked me inside. It locked the door, and it has not let me out since.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, I remember picking this up, and I have always been a very casual Batman fan prior to this run. And the one thing that we have to remember during this time is this is the emergence of, well, if Batman had prep time, he could do blank. And it really felt, in my opinion, that during this time period, no matter what you did to Batman, you knew he was going to be fine. You knew he was going to be safe. There was no real incentive of worry. And it's tough to do, but that's just kind of everything was happening. Well, Batman could conquer everything. What Snyder and Capullo did here in the team is they instilled the fear into the Bat. And you saw how they went at him with the rogues, so they went after the things he loves throughout this entire run that they did. And his biggest love is Gotham City, because no matter what, he refuses to leave it. He always will defend it, no matter what the cost to himself, to anybody around him. Gotham is his top priority. So the fact that the one thing that he thought he had full knowledge of and really was home to him was taken away by the court, who more or less said, you've been running around the city because we let you, not because you did anything. And to strike that fear into him in the psyche, and especially as this series is 12 issues long, and just the amazing artwork by Greg Capullo, especially when they do the flip book in issue 6, I believe, is just mind-blowing to think just how they systematically tore him down, and to see Batman pull the resolve, even when they mess with him to the level that they convince him that he has a brother he never knew anything about. Oh, go, Matt.
Oh, I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I thought you paused for a second. I was going to say, it also gives us one of the coolest Alfred moments when he gets into the bat suit.
Yep.
Cryogenically freezing them all. That is one of the coolest moments, because Alfred doesn't really get to shine more than the help sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he's out there kicking ass too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just how they did that, and that's the initial arc too. They set such a high bar that just word of mouth was taken over. And for me, like I said, I was never super into Batman prior, but I was all in about this. Remember just running to the comic shops every time I knew it was dropping to go get these issues. And just to see that where we go from here too, they never let up about the creativity and the run they did. And especially to segue to the next story on my list. And I might hear that we should have had the Killing Joke on here, but I was like, that's a more Joker story.
There's one I want to talk about real quick. I'm going to pull a Tom.
Okay.
Because it's Court of Owls related. And it's it's a Christian Ward's Batman City of Madness. If you do
Yep.
like the Court of Owls, they did make their return in a 3-issue miniseries from Christian Ward last year that wrapped up early this year. Highly recommend getting it. It's a very different take where Batman essentially has to team up with the court. So if you liked what they did with the Court of Owls, we do see them return finally, and it's definitely worth the read. So I want to give that some shout out too, since it's pretty much interconnected.
And I'll pull the top myself. We have seen the court as well in the DC animated universe. They did a whole slew of Batman movies that if you took them out of the DC animated extended universe, like there's still 7 out of the 17 that are just Batman, and the court has come up at least 2 to 3 times.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to think about the court actually crossover in mass media.
Yeah,
and like I say, that's a true testament of you've made a rogue for the Batman universe.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, because when they can have that crossover appeal, and every time they show up, no matter where they are throughout the DCU, it's a big moment, and it just goes to show the impact.
I remember walking through Walmart, and I think they had the DVD box set that you could get, the special edition one that had the mask.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. They did.
Yeah, I'm fingers crossed it's going to be in the Matt Reeves movie. They're going to be eventually working on there. As I say, I'm putting that karma out to the universe.
I say for the 3rd movie.
Yeah. Either way, just give me more court. But as I say, like when this run happened with Snyder and Capullo, that led to one of the best stories they've done with the Joker. And I know I did not put the Killing Joke on here because, in my opinion, that is a Joker story. That's not a Batman story.
Agreed.
But if you want to see about what Batman and the Joker is really all about and how dangerous the Joker is, Death of the Family is the one I went with here. I did not go with Death in the Family, because I literally thought that this one stood out and did more damage. So, Matt, I'll start with you. What is your thoughts of Death of the Family?
I mean, this one, it's good, right? It shows Joker's returning, and he's at this time, he's not going after Batman specifically. He is, but he's going after everybody around Batman. So he's going after Commissioner Gordon, Catwoman, Batgirl, Robins, Alfred, all of them. And so it's a psychological, because that's the only way you're going to really be able to get to Batman and be Batman. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, a god, but even then, come on, we've seen what happens.
But
it's one of those things, like to get to him, you have to psychologically like beat him. And he kind of does, man. Joker comes back, he gets his face that was cut off, and that's how he has that stapled. Really I like the direction they took Joker in this one, because it's a different take than the normal painted on look. It's this man like stapled his face on to show the pure craziness, and this is really Joker probably at his most menacing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Tom?
It's the reverse Batman, because I mean, what's Joker's thing that he did with this? Prep time.
Yeah.
Think about it. You literally took something out of your enemy's playbook and used it against them. I mean, we've seen that in another book, which is on this list, but you pull the rug out from Batman. The one thing that he has more than anything is his connection to the Bat family. As much as he tries to be stalwart, and as much as he tries to say, right, you pull the rug, right, or you pull the bat rug right out from under his cape, and who is Batman?
Yeah. Was one that, like I say, it absolutely just blew me away about, because what they did here is the Joker attacks Batman where it matters, and that's his family. Because as much as he loves Gotham, he does care about his family.
It's all about family.
Right. But the fact that the Joker went after him and said, they've been holding you back from being the true you, because you want to be Batman. You don't want to be Bruce Wayne. You want to be Batman. And how he picks him apart too. And more or less, by the time the story's done, he's won because he's killed the connection with the family, because they know about everything that has been going on. And just like, and Bruce's, it's just like a revelation about, Batman and like their stance with him. And it's just wild to see how this plays out. But by the time it's all said and done, it just goes to show, like, the Joker might have lost per se in this, the conflict, but he ultimately won because he got what he wanted. He got Batman isolated and really hit him in the heart.
I think too, this also kind of shows that, Joker has always kind of toyed with Batman. They've always toyed with each other, right? They've never gone to their extremes with each other. And then we've seen times where Batman gets really, really close to his breaking point. and gets pulled back. This is really kind of one of the first times that we've seen Joker go to that point with Batman. We know there's a very symbiotic relationship between the two, and this is one of those times that you really feel like if Joker had wanted to put his foot to the gas and get to Batman and potentially defeat Batman, that he could have this whole time. And I think that's what made it such a good story and kind of opened up the book on Joker and his potential.
Yeah, no, completely. The next one on our list is one you picked, Matt. So let's talk about 0 Year.
0 Year. This one, oh man, another really good. This is the beginning of Batman. I mean, really, it's what it is. It's Batman's first year. It is basically one of my favorite stories because of the fact that we see its influence is actually into the latest Batman film, where we see Riddler kind of take over Gotham in this post-apocalyptic Gotham. And so we see Batman with the cool purple gloves. He's a biker Batman in this one. It's a fantastic, again, by the duo. And it's a Gotham that's kind of destroyed and broken down. And this one also really tests Bruce and Batman in the beginning, because again, this is like his introduction in being Batman. He's learning still, and to learn by having to basically pick Gotham up from the ashes sets the stage for what Gotham means to him overall in his just endeavors, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, Tom, what are you thinking about when you hear 0 Year?
It's not year one.
Yeah.
It's an interesting take. And I always like a good origin story, especially the fact that we know Batman is flawless, but to see Batman with flaws just reminds you that somebody had to start somewhere. How did the Bat get to be the Bat?
Yeah.
And it just, I'm all for it.
The thing about this, which I thought really makes us make the list, and we'll talk about year one later in the show. The fact that year one is held up on such a pedestal, and rightfully so. The fact that Snyder and Capullo and the team went and tried retelling it in their own voice, and it worked, really makes this point stand out for 0 Year, because it's ambitious to try, recapturing the magic, because a lot of times that just doesn't happen. And it's not just in comics, but movies, TV, when we try doing, reboots and such. The fact they ran with it, told a brand new tale, mixed it in beautifully, and really set the tone for the universe that they created. I thought they nailed every point that they needed to. And especially, it didn't feel like we just did the same old thing. We told something brand new. We did something new. And that's why that jumped out to me. And that's why I think that it's like, you'll hear, like, I'll say on record, I think their Batman run is probably, in my opinion, is one of the best, if not the best of all time, because they nailed the key elements of Batman on point. Like, they just didn't miss. And especially in the New 52, where you touched upon, it's not exactly everything is perfect. I mean, I think Batman and Green Lantern were the two books that really stuck out to me because they didn't break away from the norm, so to speak. They kind of kept on what they were doing, just with a little fresh takes here and there, in comparison to like what they did with Superman and such. I thought, just for you, like 0 Year, it was kind of like the fitting like reflection, like, yeah, we can tell a new story and make it feel fresh without completely rehashing. And to do that in this day and age, I think is just astonishing.
Especially with how many reboots have we had?
Oh yeah,
to be honest.
Oh yeah,
well, it's really hard, especially with a character like Batman, to give us refreshing stories. And again, that's what they've done throughout their runs. Is they have given us that refreshing, and that's what 0 Year. Sure, it's a retelling, but it's still refreshing at the same time. And they find new ways, like you said, to incorporate. And I think, to me, that's just, it's art.
Yeah. Fully agree. Chat, super chat, definitely throw your picks in where you thinking everything's ranking. We definitely want to make sure you're interacting with us tonight. The next one is one that Tom brought up.
Thanks, Mr. K.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Batman Mad Love.
So Batman Mad Love is the adaptation of the episode from Batman, the new Batman Adventures. This is probably, so just to make it clear, Court of Owls was the first book from Batman that I ever read. When I came here over Nerd Initiative, ever in my whole lifetime. But for me, Batman the animated series was very significant. So the opportunity to get to do an interpretation in the comics, Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, Rick Taylor, Tim Harkins had just absolutely killed this. And then when I was also doing my homework for this, finding out that Mad Love not only is the comic book, it is also the last episode that we ever got before we started to get Justice League, then Justice League Unlimited. It was the last animated Batman episode. So that one was just a kick in the batarang, even more. Then we find out years later, we get a novelization. We get a whole new book. We get an expanded story. This thing won an Eisner. Bruce Timm had been nominated for one as well. The fact that they were able to get all of this stuff in, not only in comic book form, but also all the very interesting themes that were put into the TV episodes, that, how they were able to incorporate it, says a lot to the storytelling and to the animation team and to the drawing team. And like, this is a freaking perfect book. I don't care where you stand. To me, this is a perfect book.
Matt, what's your take?
I have a deep love for this because it's the book that my wife actually gave me on our first wedding anniversary 10 years ago.
Oh,
so to me, like,
that's a cool one. Paper anniversary, you get a comic book.
Yeah, no, she did. And so like to me, that's the first time I actually ever read it. It was great. It's the introduction of Harley Quinn into, of course she was in the Batman animated, but it's, Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, they created this character, and so they explore the goofier side of it. They really kind of lean into the weirdness of it and the goofiness, the animation style. And the other books are more serious, whereas this one is very funny, and it's Harley trying to prove her worth to Joker, and it's sad at the same time. It's a very tumultuous relationship, but dude, it's such a fun comic. It is so fun. And shout out to our boy Alan Dunford in the chat. Look at that, man.
I was gonna say Alan Dunford shouting in Grandma Chainsaw, Hocus Hocus, everything that he's doing down there with the team.
Phenomenal works.
Yeah. He's long overdue to swing back through the hallowed halls of Turn a Page.
Yes.
But that being said, I have to agree though. I mean, Mad Love is one that it does turn into a Batman story, and it's one that really, to think about how Harley Quinn came out of this too, and just the impact of the small screen of Batman. And that's why I really think it should make this list, because let's face it, Harley Quinn came from the television show and showed the impact that show still has, which, I mean, I know I'll probably catch some online heat for this. Batman the Animated Series has been the best animated superhero show of all time.
No doubt.
X-Men 97 gets a good run.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying this day and age, because I know X-Men 97 is up there. But still, I think Batman the Animated Series still sets that high bar, because it walked the fine line for being a mature reader's show and a kid's show.
And that's why X-Men 97 stands in the long shadow of the Bat, because of what the Bat established.
I'll say that. Well, they got, like I said, they kind of narrowed the gap a little bit this past season with their debut. But it's one that still stands up there and makes a great argument. But it shows how Batman raised the bar on as far as the animated series went, because to spin Harley Quinn out from this show and bring her into the comic world and really have her evolve into one of the top characters in all of pop culture, it all stems back to Batman from here.
I mean, we've got I don't think we really saw Harley all that much in the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, did we? And like maybe one or two.
Not really. That was a big, we saw the bigger Justice League villains for the most part.
And I know we didn't see her in obviously Batman Return of the Joker or Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, but then we've got her in the Arkham series as a huge character and villain. Then I mean, DC superheroes. I could go down a whole manifesto of just everything that Harley Quinn has done. So
she might be
shout out to everybody, but more so Arlene Sorkin.
Yes.
Yeah, she might be like the biggest villain. Like, of course, when it comes to like superheroes, you got your Wonder Woman and stuff, but when you're thinking villains, she kind of set the tone in the bar for, you could love these female villains too at the same time. And she's badass, she's strong, she's not just a sidekick. I mean, in Mad Love, she captures Batman.
Yeah.
She literally captures Batman and Joker gets mad. Like, she proves it right then and there. Like, she shows her worth. And I think that's so cool. And to go to Ken's point too about Batman animated series, if you don't have the Batman animated series, I don't think you have Spider-Man's animated series. I don't think you have the X-Men animated series. And I will stand on that all day, because I feel like that kind of led the way to get more of these animated superhero shows. Without a doubt.
I think I wrote something about that.
Yeah, no, but it's the truth though. I mean, Batman the Animated Series opened the door for so many other series to come out. I mean, just that time when it was all on Fox Saturday morning cartoons. Like, I just remember it was Batman, Spider-Man, and X-Men, like all in the same lineup. Like, how great is that?
For us, it was wonderful time.
Yes. Speaking of wonderful times, I mean, this is a story that actually is not a Batman story per se, but is one that jumped out and really showed the influence of the Bat on the DC universe level. And Tom, why don't we talk about this? Tower of Babel.
It's not a Batman story per se. I will completely agree, but it's because of Batman that how tense this story is. I mean, again, what is Batman's superpower? Prep time.
Yep.
So what do you do when you tear the Justice League apart using Batman's ideas? This is just a phenomenal story. Again, had the opportunity to read this for Turn of Page, and I was just floored. And I also love the fact that this was also developed into the DC animated as
I was waiting for someone to pull him up. Yes.
You think I wouldn't? Come on. And to see that and to compare the two, and you know, I like how they took the artistic license when it came to the animated version, but as it stands, this is just such a phenomenal freaking book, and I cannot tell you again and over, get out and get it. Get an omnibus, get a greatest hits, get a hardcover, get a soft cover, get a trade paperback, get a digital, just get it.
Yeah. I mean, Matt?
You know, I know Batman gets his crap, sometimes deservedly so, for his prep time. But man, you got to think about it, because he is, at the end of the day, a normal person surrounded by superpowered beings. And he's right, though, especially in this story. Like, what happens if you get mind controlled, which we've seen even Superman get mind controlled plenty of times, right? How are they going to take him down? This shows his superpower is his mental prowess and his abilities in that sense. And I love it for that reason, because you really dive into what the weakness of every single character is. And then Batman even shows his own weakness. He doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
It really dives into his paranoia about the fact, you know.
I was going to say, I know it wasn't written by Mark Waid, but in this JLA run, Grant Morrison actually tackled this and really brought to life about how Batman is the most dangerous human being on the planet, because he is the one who stopped the Martian invasion that took out all the superheroes. And there's a classic line, I believe, in issue 3 of this JLA run, which is one of the best of all time, too, by the way. And you have the one leader going like, well, where's Batman? They're like, oh, we just left him behind. He's a puny human. And they're like, you fool. Like, he's the most dangerous one of them all. And Batman single-handedly takes him out. And they're all kind of like, why? And he's like, because he just doesn't trust anybody. Like, he's literally, he's
not capable.
Yeah. But he's the other side of the coin of Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest with you, he is like, they're so similar in their characteristics, and it's kind of funny that they're both the best friend and worst enemy of Superman, if you really think about it. Like, it's just a dichotomy they never break down.
One of my favorite things, going back to the Justice League Doom, at the end of that whole movie, Kevin Conroy, you know, Superman asks, so what's your contingency for us? And you remember what Kevin Conroy said? It's called the Justice League.
Yeah.
That's it.
It plays out to perfection there.
Yeah.
But one thing that we've talked a lot about Batman's highlights. The next on the list is one that really took him to his darkest hour, and one that really tested his will like never before. The 19-part episode known as Nightfall. And when this hit in the 90s, this was literal national news. Like, much of the events that you were having with the death of Superman, and the comics were, you know, in a very unique place as far as the major media was going. And to see this go down with Batman and Nightfall, Matt, we'll start with you. What is your take on this?
Somebody bigger, there's always a bigger fish. And Bane in this instance is that bigger fish, man. I mean, Batman comes in toe to toe and I broke you. And, you know, Bane's comes in there. And then from there, we kind of get somebody else taking up the mantle of Batman, which is something we hadn't really gotten to see before. And so this is the first time that he kind of really trusts somebody. And we see it goes wrong, of course. But it's such an in-depth, incredible series. It's powerful. And the fact that it made national news, it's like that. comic books, man. That's the power of a good story right there. And this was a great story.
Yeah. Tom?
Okay, so I was saying to Ken just before we got on how he mentioned, national news. I can remember vividly. I was in 6th or 7th grade at the time, and I was having breakfast in my dining room. We had a small TV where we watched the news every single morning. I remember them doing this on Good Morning America, talking about this. And me, not as a, at that point, there was just a little bit going on as far as Batman animated series and the Tim Burton movie and so on and so forth. But the fact that they did this, and this was coming off the heels of Death of Superman the year before, again, remember sitting, in my living room watching
Killing
that.
our superheroes was so hot back then.
Like, seriously. But my dad was like, holy shit. And my dad's not a comic book person, but understanding the relevance of this, wow. Like, just that alone changed the fabric of comic book, history. On top of it, I mean, again, Ken and I were talking about this. Yeah, 19 parts. Did they necessarily stick the landing? But they started off great.
Yeah, the initial.
Oh, yeah. The initial run of this is truly an ingenious idea if you think about it. Because we have Bane, who, I mean, obviously looks like a pro wrestler in this situation, going and systematically taking down Batman by wearing him down. And it's an ingenious play that he does because he frees every villain out of Arkham and lets them loose on the city. And Batman, being the over paranoid hero that he is taking this upon himself. He's not really getting a lot of help because he feels he has to take care of this himself. But his physical body, even though of how much he has prepared himself, cannot handle the exertion of energy that he's doing. So he is a shell of himself when he finally meets Bane. And when Bane breaks him, not only does he break him physically, but he breaks him mentally. Like, Bane did something that nobody else has ever done. And you think about all of his rogues. Bane does this in pretty much his debut. I mean,
you were saying, both you guys were saying it, to the fact that, if with Batman having the largest Rolodex of bad guys in his rogues gallery, the fact that you can put a character in like that is extremely smart writing. And Bane has still had a great run since then.
Oh, yeah.
Except the movie version.
Well, the movie version we just forgot about.
We don't talk about it.
As of now. Hopefully they do it right in the Reeves first if they decide to bring him back.
Well, I mean the one with Poison Ivy, not.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. But just with what it is, it's one of those deals that you can introduce a rogue, and especially they took the concept from the Legends of the Dark Knight book that happened, that you got to see what happens when a villain takes venom, because Batman was almost addicted to it at one point in the Legends of the Dark Knight. So you see this play out, that like, what's the worst that could happen? You see it with Bane, that he elevates himself to this status. But then the ending, though, I will admit, I think that's something that we always remember, the endings. The choice that they went with John Paul Valley, aka Azrael at the time, who was a brand new hero, to take up the mantle and really go extreme.
Hero. It's the 90s.
It's the 90s, which, I mean, it makes sense for the time, but not in the history of the Bat.
Extremely wrong.
Yeah, which, I mean, it ultimately forces Batman to rehabilitate himself and come back instead. And I like how at least they address it in the comic about why you didn't give it to Dick Grayson, who is the rightful heir.
Agreed.
But it's one that still stands out because we all remember that as a national event, and it shows the reach of Batman. So when you have an event that crosses over to pop culture like that, you have to make sure it's on a list for that. And it does make a good argument.
Yeah.
But now we're getting into the top 3. So chat, super chat, how have we been doing? Have we missed any stories? Put them in there. Let us know. But in the top 3 is very tough right now. But I think this one is a very worthy addition and is one that stood out and really made an impact very quietly in 1996. And that is The Long Halloween by Jeff Loeb and the late Tim Sale.
That's a very good way to put it. A very quiet one. Like, if you were in the DC circles, then you knew about it. If you weren't, then it was kind of like, oh, cool. It's another Batman story. They've got weird costumes, but it's a Batman story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Tom, why don't you kick us off about this? Why is this story making the list?
It has had long repercussions. I love the fact that we've gotten The Long Halloween. It's again been adapted into another animated movie. I think that one, though, was in the Tomorrowverse. So we all know how I feel about the tomorrow.
Jensen Ackles still voiced Batman though.
That's nice.
Shout out to my homie Lauren. That one's for you.
Yes.
Thanks, Lauren. There's a shout out, but still, the animated version was not all that great, and honestly,
There's a 2-parter, and yeah, I agree with that.
It seriously could have been a 1-parter. But the Long Halloween just entered. It's the Long Halloween. Like, how do you want me to really explain it? It's just damn good.
Well, it shows Batman in his early days of being a detective. Like, this is a story where he really has to lean his detective work.
Yeah, it's another good early run story, and he's Batman.
It's a continuation of year 1. So I mean, he's getting a grasp of things. He's introduced to like Harvey Dent and Jim Gordon. Like their relationships really blossomed under this because what's happening essentially is there's a killer named Holiday killing people on holidays. And so it really, it's like a journal entry spanning these holidays. And you get all of Gotham's rogues. Again, Batman's rogues are on display. And it's him really finding his footing as the symbol of Gotham, the hero of Gotham, whatever it may be. And again, introducing Harvey and Commissioner Gordon and all of these kind of things. So it's the character development, man. I think that's why this is one of those things that I really think it pushes character development hard, which is very hard for a comic book to do, period.
Yeah. I think this worked on so many levels because we think about Batman being up there in the Justice League and, walking amongst gods, if you will. This really brought him back to where I think he really excels at, and that's street level crime and being the greatest detective, which he always has been and always will be. And to see him walk through a murder mystery in year 2, and he's still getting his footing, and how they did the slow burn drama involving every one of his rogues, it flowed so easily that you couldn't help but be caught up in it. And you were still guessing until you got right to that last book a year later, which to do a story like that and not skip a beat, and really, it never felt like there was a filler moment in there. Like everything mattered on a big scale, and you got to see everybody involved. That at the time, like there wasn't anybody that you really felt like, oh, they should have been here. No, they hit all the key elements, dived into the story, really had him challenge himself, and the payoff is just this fantastic reveal at the end. Which, if you haven't read this book for whatever reason, please make a point to go pick it up.
Do it.
It's one of it's on here for a reason. Just because of the creativity, the slow burn drama, and just really showcasing his detective skills like we haven't seen before, and how it all meshes together. I mean, it's near perfection, in my opinion.
Agreed.
That leaves us with 2 left.
2.
And we have referenced this a little earlier in the show, but this is one that is in that when you talk greatest Batman stories, it has to be in the conversation. Batman Year 1 by Frank Miller. And just this whole book right here, you see the creative team there, just fantastic job top to bottom. Reprinted now, obviously, in the Black Label time period or under the imprint, but still to see this from 1987 and still hold up. Matt, I'll start with you. What is your takes from Year 1?
It's a Batman origin story, right? We see him 12 years gone. He comes back. He wants to figure out how to fight crime. We're introduced again, Jim Gordon, who's, doing what he can do in a very corrupt city. And then it shows like the pitfalls of his naivety, or if you will, Bruce's, of how he starts in the red light district and how he kind of really doesn't understand the crime in Gotham, the corruption in Gotham right off the bat. He thinks it's more surface level than it really is. And so you really see him learn a lot, and he gets his butt kicked a bunch in this. And the animated film that they made for this one is honestly one of my favorites as well, because it's so faithful to the book. I've got the book downstairs too. Again, that's another annual read. I really love it because it's not a big world earth breaking story. It's this broken kid coming back home with big hopes and dreams, and learning how to make Batman him and how he takes on that mantle.
Yeah. Tom?
It's Frank Miller.
Yes.
That's it. It's Frank Miller. Like, you put Frank Miller and Batman together, that's all you need. Going off what Matt said, there was a quote out there that said, this is the book that builds the man to the myth, or something like that, paraphrasing. So again, getting that whole beginning, and thank you, Matt, you beat me to it as far as there was an animated version.
Jim Gordon's badass in that animated version
absolutely.
when he takes on the cops. Oh man, that's one of the best scenes.
And you can even kind of say that some of this was adapted into Gotham, if you think about it, just a little bits here and there from the Fox series. Now, we're not talking like the full on, detective and
right.
later, but you get some of that Jim Gordon, you get that feeling in the Gotham TV series. Mind you, bunch of up ankles because the dude is really short.
Yeah. But
it's the truth.
But in this circumstance, this makes sense on so many different levels. Frank Miller at the time really captured the grittiness of Gotham.
At the time, does Frank Miller never not capture grittiness?
Well, but you have to think, for Batman, though, you have to capture it at that point, because we're coming out of different eras.
That's true.
And this is also, I always define it as the time period before Watchmen, after Watchmen. So you have to really kind of keep this in perspective, because this kind of leans into that after Watchmen vibe. And you really get to see a Batman we haven't seen before, one that's flawed, one that's not as sharp as he has been that we've seen for however many years prior to. We see a Jim Gordon that's definitely flawed. We don't see the finished product, but we do see them, planting the seeds for what eventually grows into the bond of, justice in Gotham.
Yes, Frank Miller can do wrong. His scripts sometimes aren't the best, especially in The Dark Knight Returns. Just the vernacular that he uses.
Yeah.
Very cringy at times.
I was going to say, I'm personally, I'm not the biggest fan of his All-Star Batman.
Yeah. I love Frank Miller. Don't get me wrong, but just some
of
the ways he thinks, like teenagers and gangs talk, especially in, again, Dark Knight Returns, it's just like, Frank, oof, not quite it, buddy. Yeah. Not quite it, Spud.
No, but you have to think about the impact he made too. And I love how you segue to what we're going to be talking about, because this is arguably the greatest Batman story of all time, but we're going to decide it by the time we get off air. And that is Batman, The Dark Knight Returns from 1986. Yes. And that cover by Frank Miller too. Like, how iconic has that become? Go, Matt.
No, I was just saying, yeah, like they did it in, Batman v Superman. Whatever your thoughts are, they really did kind of homage it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I love this book so much. It's an old Batman. Jim knows who they like at this point. They know who they are, but it really shows that Batman has never left Bruce. Like, he's tried to leave it behind. He's out there, adrenaline junkie. He's in his race car, and honestly too, like, it gives me my favorite moments between Clark and Bruce, especially when it comes down to with Carrie Kelly, who very underrated and not talked about enough as a Robin. I personally have her in my top 3 Robins of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But like the whole battle in the mud between him and the mutant leader, and the wits that he shows after getting just destroyed because he's not spry and strong like he used to be. And so to lean on his smarts, he's still sharp in that aspect. And then the fight between him and Superman, because Superman's a tool of the government. And then you even get one-armed Ollie popping in for fun. And then that just little smirk at the end because he knows Bruce isn't actually dead. It's just like, that's my favorite moments, because they disagreed and they came to blows. And it's one of my favorite fights between the two. But at the end of the day, like, they still have that admiration for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a total bromance between them. There's an amazing mutual respect between them. But this, again, just turned the comic book world on its ear. I mean, to get old Batman, and then how many times since then have we gotten an older story? This was the one that started it all. We've gotten how many old man this and old man that, but to see old man Bruce, just again broken himself. Like, he's been doing this for so long. I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah.
It's the truth. And then to see, again, like you said, Superman as, a tool for the government, and those two going at it. We've had it adapted in the comic because we've had it homaged in film. It stands the test of time. I mean, to the point that we've gotten how many sequels out of it now?
I lost track.
Exactly. Now, I don't know if this has been a good idea, but I would have been okay for it being right where it was.
Yeah, no, I
Agreed.
agree. Like I can't pick up the sequels because I hold this book up in so much high regard. Like
Agreed.
I just can't. Because what this did is Frank really captured the voice of Bruce Wayne, elevated it to a futuristic story, which we can all see playing out, and
Yeah.
really showed about how he will not ever stop being Batman because he is Batman. That's all he knows. That is his entire life. And then even if his body is giving out, he's still trying to recapture it.
I'm not finished with you. And you're
Yeah,
not finished with me.
Yeah, because he's not done being him. Because if he knows he's done being Batman, he has nothing to live for. And when he goes and just tries reclaiming the city and does, especially when his body is broken, it down as much as that is because of it's just father time he can't beat. It's just a crazy story of how it plays out. What happens with the Joker is wild. And then
The
I mean,
whole
yeah, we didn't even touch
Oh,
on that.
man.
No, we didn't.
That
Shit.
was just crazy in its own right. If that story comes to a head and finally finishes, even like you get 3 separate stories in this one. It's so impressive. It really
And
is.
it's so well written and paced out too.
Yeah.
Like that's the crazy thing about it. And just to see just how it's all summed up in 4 issues, you get an event. And to do that and have it still emulated throughout time. Like remember, this came out in 86. It's still getting,
The book's almost
Yeah,
40 years old.
like I was
It's
going to say,
raved.
like it's
It's
still
raved about today.
yeah, it's still raved about. It's still getting, replicated in certain degrees. And it's, when you start piecing all that kind of together with that, it really adds into just the legacy of Batman. And this is one that, I mean, when you talk about greatest Batman stories of all time, like it has to be in that top 5, at least if it's not number 1.
Yeah.
So there's just so much to win about this and see just the impact on it. There's so many stories. Like I say, we had to cut it down to 10. So we're making it tough. Very quickly, is there any stories that we left off that you thought should have been on here? I'll start with Tom.
Batman versus Elmer Fudd.
Oh, brother. Batman Scooby Doo.
It was a complete gag book, but if you really do get a chance to read it, it is really freaking phenomenal to take Looney Tunes characters and instead of anthropomorphize them, they've turned them human and you get these characteristics. It really is a fun read for just a one-off. I'm not kidding. Like seriously, go out and read it. And I do have one more Batman story. Ken already knows. Tonight's my favorite Batman story. The fact that we get to share and be able to do this 85 years later, with Batman turned 85. So this is my favorite Batman story as well.
Well said, sir. Matt?
No, I mean, I gave my homage to, Batman City of Madness. And then who knows, maybe we'll be talking about, absolute Batman here next year, right? So that's the beautiful thing about Batman is he transcends time, coming back from where he began and how they really crafted this character and refreshed him. And he went through so many different periods, whether they're goofy, 1966, or more serious, more dark, the late 80s and 90s. It really is a testament to the character and the hero that people are drawn so much to this character in this person, in this persona, almost more so than any other superhero, arguably. I don't really have any other stories I can think of. I mean, there's a million out there, so if you really sat me down, I'm sure there are. But I think we covered them all.
Yeah, this was a tough one to do because there was a couple that I thought we could have gone to. War of Jokes and Riddles. That was one that could have been there. Death in the Family.
Yes.
We could have made an argument for Batman and Son. The introduction of Damian Wayne. But Son of the Demon. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like we could have literally been here all night talking Batman, and that just goes to show about the impact the creators who've given us 85 years of these fantastic stories have left the legacy upon, and just the impact the character has made now. And we get to celebrate a day this coming Saturday, which is wild to think about, but it's an amazing feat to just see the impact of the imagination running loose to just give you a vengeful character willing to fight for justice.
And I think that the benefit to the fact that Batman has been so fluid or at least pliable or moldable is the fact that he is just a guy. You can't do these stories with Supes. You can't do it with Barry Allen. You can't do it with superpowered individuals. I think that what is really what stands a testament to be able to have that moldable, mashable, pliable, bat suit and bat nips available just to, do your thing.
Yeah, no, fully agree. But before we get out of here, we have to crown a winner. So let's just go around. Tom, if you got to choose one, what is your one great Batman story?
Hey, Matt, what's yours?
All right, I'll break the ice here. I'm going to go ahead and say it's The Dark Knight Returns for the reasons that we talked about. It's 3 separate stories, perfectly plotted and paced. It brings the end between the, storied rivalry between Batman and Joker. It has this story between Superman, the pawn that became, and then also like just how Bruce is the Batman is never done. It's truly shows that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Like there is no Bruce Wayne. It is Batman. Always has, always will be. And so I think for that, because it really did look at what it spawned for pop culture and Batman stories. Everybody always references it. Look at all the big directors who tackle, or the big actors who tackle the role of Batman. They always reference The Dark Knight Returns in some regard. And for good reason. And so for me, it's got to be that one just for its impact and storytelling. And it's really amazing. Really, really amazing.
Great pick. Tom, are you ready or do you still need a moment?
Switzerland.
Oh my gosh.
I really do think, and because of the long-term effects, and I'm not taking away from Frank Miller. I mean, God knows I love his work. I really got to stick with my choice. I really got to stick with Mad Love, considering it's because of Batman. It's had such an impact on the recent media, and with Harley Quinn, and the fact that we were able to get all those really big things to talk about in that book. I really think Mad Love is probably one of my is my number one. But you know what it is. It's comic books. We literally change our mind every time we turn a page.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, did the thing.
No, but but that's the whole thing. But I have to throw my vote in. I know Kat has thrown her vote in. I see that in the chat. Definitely make your voice heard, chat. I have to say it is from 1986, and it is The Dark Knight Returns. I think for what this story did, and we're talking just the broad perspective, we're coming out of a very unique time in comics. Things are getting grittier, things are getting darker, things are getting away from the traditional views that we have as superheroes. And to see Frank Miller take a character like Batman and really push it to its absolute extreme of taking him away from how we know him. He's, aged. He's not the same Bruce Wayne that we've seen for how many years. He has a very unique look on Gotham. And to see how his return to grab the crown of Gotham, literally, and reclaim the mantle that he feels that he, still deserves, and what he goes through in the extreme levels he does, it really kind of set the tone for like a whole generation of comics after. And to see what they could do with Batman, because it still works to the character. And I mean, granted, there are some extreme moments in it, sure. But to see about the essence of the character at its most pure form, and that is, literally being the vengeful defender of justice. And still to see how it's, replicated and homaged to this day. That goes to show about how impactful that story is. That's why it's not only one of the greatest Batman stories of all time, it's one of the best stories of all time, period.
I'm really surprised you didn't talk about the Injustice stories.
Injustice is a whole different ball of wax.
Okay.
Yeah, way different. Yeah, that's completely different. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's more of a Superman story, to be honest with you. If you really want to get into it, if we ever decide to do, for whatever reason, super chat, if you guys want to hear us ever do this, we're more than open to it. If we ever did greatest Batman Superman stories, like a world's finest episode like this, that would be up there.
Yeah.
But to do it for just Batman, no, it wouldn't make sense.
Okay, fair enough. No, but I see where you come from.
Yeah. Like I said, but
that's why we do this.
Yeah, but that's why I say we're always willing to listen to ideas for Turn a Page, because when we like to talk comics, we like talking comics with you, wherever you are watching us from, whether it's on YouTube where you see the QR code from, or on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Kick, You name it. If you're watching us and you're supporting it, that means you're a comic fan and you want to have that conversation. So, if we want to do an episode like that, let us know. We can make that happen. But before we get out of here, though, we do have a special announcement for next week's show. Tom, do you want to do the honors?
Space Ghost. We're having David Pepos on.
Yes, returning to the show is the one and only David Pepos, who is the writer behind Space Ghost for Dynamite Entertainment.
Yes.
So he will be on next week to talk about that and a few other things, I would imagine, too, because I saw his Twitter this week. So we definitely have to deep dive about a couple things going on. So super excited to talk to David. He's an amazing creator. And if you haven't read his stuff, you do yourself a favor and go pick that up, because he does lights out work no matter what it is on the indie scene or with Marvel right now. He's absolutely killing it. Or crushing it, I should say.
And he's fun to interview too.
Yes, he's an amazing interview. Super excited to have him come back on Turn the Page. So that he will be the guest on next week's episode live here on Nerd Initiative YouTube. So Tom, now that we got that out of the way, why don't you let everybody know what's going on with you and TV talk?
Well, you can find Nerd Initiative TV Talk right here every single Monday night at 8 o'clock. We just did our, precursor to Agatha All Along. So that's going to be coming out. Agatha comes out this week. We are going to be doing recaps and reviews and views and theories every single week as Agatha comes out. So please come and join, and then make sure you come back here on Tuesday night for Turn the Page.
Absolutely. Matt, what's going on with you in Hopskeeks News?
Whoo, lad. Well, we got some comic book reviews dropping tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. So be, of course, that. But Laura and I will be back this Thursday. We're review Beetlejuice, which I finally saw it. This past week on Monday, we released an Agatha pre-show diving into her comic book origin and telling you some good fun facts about her. So check that out. We also go live just about once a week and all sorts of other good stuff. So I will be going down there in October to hang and visit with Lauren. So the only way to know what's going on with us is scan the QR code and come hang out.
Absolutely. And for me, new episodes of the ODPH can be found at odphpodcast.com. If you're new to Nerd Initiative, we do love our QR codes here. So make sure to click on that, and they'll take you right where you need to go to get the latest episode, talking a little sports this week. And then in the entertainment edition, previewing Agatha All Along and The Penguin, which drops Thursday on Max, and our very own Janelle Nerd Initiative. Yep. We'll be reviewing that for the site, so you definitely want to make sure you check out that. Matt alluded to comic book reviews, and nobody, and I mean nobody, does New Comic Book Day quite like Nerd Initiative and the Bullpen, which we have reviews dropping at 9 a.m. Matt, you are actually leading us off. What are you talking about this week?
The moon is following us. It is such a very good read. Oh my gosh, Danny Warren Johnson, Riley Rossman, just wow is all I have to say. It is a story about parents who have lost their child. They're trying to get their child back, but they pretty much are within their child's dreams. And it is such a fantasy, dark, horrifying, well-drawn, well-colored, well-written story that I think everybody's going to want to pick up from Image Comics tomorrow. I cannot rave about it enough. You're going to be in for a treat.
Yeah, can't wait to read that review, dropping at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on nerdinitiative.com. And we have a lot of reviews going. I want to say I think we have over 30 right now getting ready to drop. Like we say, nobody, and I mean nobody, does New Comic Book Day like Nerd Initiative.
Nope.
And that being said, obviously we talk every Tuesday. We got brand new episodes of Turn a Page coming out leading into New York Comic Con, which we'll be doing the official preview for New York Comic Con coming up in October as well. Super excited about that. And a lot of things are going to be coming on there as well. So you definitely want to make sure you're clicking on the QR codes, making sure you're signing up. And if you want to just get everything that is going on with the home of pop culture positivity, whether it's comics, whether it's TV, movies, D&D,
sports,
like I say, sports, you name it. If your fandom isn't there, trust me, it's probably on the way. But in the meantime, you want to click on that QR code, check out all the articles, check out all the videos, check out all the pop culture knowledge you need to have in your life via the home of pop culture positivity. And because we have to do it because it's in our contracts, we also have merch. So if you want to go support the brand out at your favorite convention, out at the favorite football games, wherever you want to do it, click on that QR code and go pick up some Nerd Initiative gear and cups, and you name it, it's there. And go support the brand because it definitely means a lot just seeing it out there. And last but certainly not least, because our guy in the chair, Rich, shout out to him, would say we can't leave without doing the homework assignment. So Tom, do you have that ready?
I have that almost ready. I'm ready.
There we go. So follow the instructions on the screen. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Click the bell notification so you don't miss any time we go live on here, and tap that thumbs up to let our boss Michael know that you love the content you're seeing on Nerd Initiative and you want to see more of it. It's that simple. So that being said, I have to switch up the outro this week. On behalf of Matt, on behalf of Tom and myself, thank you for checking out another edition of Turn a Page. And remember, when you're at the comic shops and you have a great issue of Batman in your hand and you see somebody struggling to find something, hand yours off to them. Tell them turn a page. We'll see you next week.
Save Martha. I'm out.